Today, we're going to go from an empty folder to a workspace that knows your business and its strategy. And you'll be set up in the first step of creating your own AI operating system. If you use Claude by itself without context, you'll notice that the answers you get are very generic. And this will be the thing that allows Claude to act in favor of your business. We're going to walk through how to get Claude to ask you what it needs, uploading existing documents to Claude and having it analyze them, and building a CLAUDE.md file so Claude actually knows to use your data. I'm going to build it live with you, walking you through every step, and by the end, Claude's going to be able to advise you and your team on what's going wrong in the business and how to fix it, and what's going well in the business and how to capitalize on it. And we're going to start with the interview. A blank page might be scary and intimidating. You won't really know what to do, you'll forget what to add, and in general, you'll probably forget something. And a templated questionnaire won't get into the intricacies that you really want Claude to have. It's going to be generic as well. And so that's why we're going to have Claude interview us to actually get the information it needs. Claude's going to do a better job at asking better questions and making sure nothing's missing. It's going to take your questions, read them, analyze them, and if it needs more information, it'll ask a new question that gathers that follow-up information. And so to get your context, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to have Claude interview you about your business, how it operates, and its strategy. Claude will gather all the information it needs over all the different business categories, such as marketing, sales, operations. And it's going to create an output folder for you with documents for you to review and for Claude to reference later. And this is going to be a living folder that Claude's going to pull from that'll explain everything about your business, hence the business context. And to do this, all we're going to do is load up Claude Code and put in a specific prompt to get it to interview you. And so I've loaded up a blank demo folder in my documents in VS Code here. And so we've started a new Claude Code session. All I'm going to do to get it to start this interview is paste a specific prompt that I pre-prepped for this video. I'm going to paste it in here. And you can't see everything here, but I'm just going to click enter and I'll allow you to pause the video and read the full thing. So there it is. And while Claude starts going, we'll go over it. You can see we're starting a new AI operating system for my business from a completely empty folder. Nothing exists. I want to build out my context layer. It consists of 4 files: business info, personal info about me, the business strategy, current data. It's going to ask me one question at a time, wait for my answer before asking the next one. Cover the 4 areas, so business info, what it does, who it serves, how it makes money, what stage it's at. You can read all 3 of these. And then for the current data, we're going to save concrete numbers and counts in the data section. And we're going to keep each file high level. And so take a pause in this video and copy these prompts down, enter them into Claude, and answer it for yourself. But I'm going to answer all these questions and I'll come back and we'll look at the outputs. And we come back and I've answered all the questions. You can see it started with the business info and actually asked a follow-up question about the business info. You can pause to read through my answers, but these are very generic. You should be as in-depth as possible for yours. And I went on to the personal info, just told about my background. I did a software engineering, computer science degree, told I'm more of a builder, told it selling is the struggle point. Then on to my strategy, told them my top priorities and what I would want in the next 90 days. Quick on current data, just all of my recurring clients, what my numbers were, approximate revenue, team size, all that kind of stuff. And so what it did is actually went and created all 4 of those files for me. It had one thing to reconcile. We fixed that, and here's my summary. I'm an early stage business selling fully managed AIOS to high-level coaches and consultants. Read through that if you want. And this is just the edit for fixing this reconciliation. But if we go over each document here, we can see what it wrote, what it does, who it serves, current data, personal info, and strategy. Now these are all living documents, so if you want to add, remove, change anything in here, either you can do it yourself, just like this, or you can have Claude do it for you just by asking it to do so. Now, I know you might also have a whole bunch of documents about your business that you could give to Claude. It would explain your business a lot better if you just gave it those documents. And while Claude did a good job of interview, that interview can't ask you about something it doesn't know exists. And so the knowledge it will gain from all of your additional documentation will result in a context folder that's drastically better. And so our next step is actually uploading these documents, because if we skip this, Claude will only ever know the stuff you told it in that interview and none of your actual business in detail. And so why shouldn't Claude be able to reference the existing docs, right? Typing something like this out in an interview would be a nightmare, because you've got strategy on how you like to do your marketing or your operations. You've got branding documents, emails, all that kind of stuff. And all of these different documents might have additional insight that can help Claude make better decisions about your business. And so these uploaded documents should be things like proposal templates and service pages, any of your copy, any of your strategy documents. I mentioned marketing, sales, you can do operations documents. Basically, you should be uploading anything you think Claude can actually benefit from that would be harder to explain in the interview. Think of every department in your business, marketing, sales, ops, finance, whatever. Find all relevant documents and gather them together. And we're going to create a folder in our workspace to upload all of them, and then we're going to tell Claude what to do with them. So we're back in Claude Code, and the first thing we're going to do is come over to the left here. We're going to select so that the context folder is actually highlighted, and we're going to select this little new folder button. We're going to click it, and we're just going to type import as we're going to be importing our documents. And so I've uploaded some files here for us to look at. They don't have to be markdown files. They can be pretty much anything, .doc, PDF, PNG even. You can add all of them to the import folder. Here's a quick avatar. Here's some bios about me, my content strategy, quick funnel, some testimonials I got. Just add whatever you want that you feel is relevant and could help Claude. Once you've finished adding all of your imports, you're going to come back to Claude, and I've got another prompt for you to use to actually get it to use this information. I'm going to paste it in here and hit enter, and we'll read through it while it starts. So we can see that I've said I've dropped some existing documents in the import, proposals, service pages, other material about my business, read everything in that folder and use it to enrich my existing files here, pull out anything relevant that the interview didn't capture, fold it into whichever file it actually belongs in, and don't actually just dump raw text because that doesn't help us. It's fine for it to touch more than one file or none at all. Skip promotional marketing language, keep it high level, same tone as before, not a comprehensive wiki. And then tell us what you've done and where you've added stuff in each file. And so go ahead, pause the video, copy this prompt, and use it in your own workspace. And I'll come back when it's done, and we'll go over what it did for me. And it's come back with the edits. We've got the items from our business info. I took my business name, what AIOS is, sharpened my ideal client, expanded outbound verticals, client capabilities, offer names, positioning. You get the point. It's just taking all this information that you're giving it and updating these 4 files, and you can see they're already bigger than they were before. And it did tell us that we have flags for me to double check. The audience scope has something for verticals, which I'm just pulling from my main iOS, and so it might have some differences here, but you should work through all of these and make sure they're good. And if you come back in the future and you ever need to add more items to your context, you simply drag the new file into import and ask it this similar prompt, except for existing documents, just mention the actual document that you put in there. But now that you have everything in the import folder into your actual context files, the next thing you might be wondering is how Claude actually uses this information. So we've uploaded all of our documents, done the interview, but we haven't actually told Claude Code how to use this information and to use it without you telling it to use it. We really want our AI to give us actionable insights about our business, but telling it to look every time in a certain spot wouldn't make any of this any faster than a regular Claude chat. And so when we give Claude a detailed instruction file, that's what's actually going to make the real impact in generating valuable answers for the business autonomously. Claude doesn't actually have a why for the documents that we gave it. It has no idea what they're there for or what it's going to use them for. And sure, you can tell it in a new chat what they're for, to reference them directly, but we want all of that to be automatic. And we want it to reference it from the start of every chat automatically. We also want Claude to act in a way that benefits the business. And that's initially why we created the context, but again, it needs to reference them in a specific way that actually benefits us. So we're going to use this interview and our uploads to create an instruction file for Claude that's easy for it to understand, that it automatically reads at the start of every session, and we're never actually re-explaining anything about our business again. The file will directly reference the business context, so Claude knows which business it's helping, what the business strategies are, and all of the relevant knowledge that we gave it in the upload. And so we're going to go back to Claude Code for one more prompt. And we don't actually need to do anything this time like we did with the import folder. We just paste in this prompt and let it run. I'm going to paste it in now, let it run, and we'll go over it while it runs again. We're going to read it here. Now that the context is in the workspace, we want it to create a CLAUDE.md file in the root. We want to short what is this section, frames the workspace as an AIOS for the business, not just a technical instruction file. Then we're going to tell any future Claude session to read the 4 files before responding to any requests in the workspace, to cite which file it pulled from when it uses something specific, summarize in a line or two each file contains, so it's oriented every time without opening them. And so CLAUDE.md to keep it short. It's a routing index, not a copy of everything in the 4 files. Don't invent sections for capabilities that don't exist yet. No fake commands, no fake modules, no data connections. First layer only. And it's going to get built as we build in the workspace. Double check it's built cleanly. Again, take a pause, make sure you're copying this down and pasting into your workspace as you're working along with me. And we can see that it's already created this, and we can check it out. Now this is very simple. We've got our what this is section, AIOS for my business. It's going to grow. It's some instructions, grows to a system, learns how the business operates, how to work in this workspace, read all 4 context files, giving their location, cite your source, treat it as authoritative but not frozen. So if we conflict with a file, service it rather than silently overriding. Here's just staying out the surface layer and the folder layout. But now that this has actually created this file, I know that it's missing a few things that we're going to add here shortly. The first thing is the Claude user relationship. And so we're going to add that in ourselves. We're going to do this right under the what this is section. And so we're just telling it to act in a certain way based on our user relationship. What you can do to get this to fill in itself is paste in everything here. You can get rid of this and ask Claude to fill in that section for you in the CLAUDE.md file under the user section under Claude user relationship. And so this just stays static because that's how I want Claude to act. The next thing we're going to add is the AIOS mission. This one's going to go under the Claude user relationship. This one's just copy paste. This is generally the same across all businesses, just explaining what the AIOS mission is of working on the business, not in it. This next one is very important. We're going to paste this in, and this is the critical instructions. We want Claude to maintain this file every time it's doing major changes. If a new module is installed, add one row to a context modules MD. If that doesn't exist, Claude will create it, don't worry. New command added. One row to the commands table. Workspace structure chained. Update the workspace structure. Anything else growing, these here. And one final one is a session workflow. Again, simple stuff just to make it work better. You can change how this operates. In my main AIOS, I have a prime command that injects all of my context, create, plan command, implement command, all this kind of stuff. When you build this out, you can change this around in the general way of how you like your workspace to act. This one I'm going to remove because I want to show you how to get Claude to actually understand what we just added. Simply, we're going to go back to Claude and we're going to say, I just added some new sections to CLAUDE.md. Make sure you understand them and build out any files that might be needed to accommodate them. We simply add that. It's going to read over CLAUDE.md and figure itself out. And so it comes back to us and actually created a few files here. Firstly, installed modules, commands, updated the workspace structure in the actual CLAUDE.md file, a reference of the workspace structure in here in the reference folder that it created, then a modules folder as well, with a space for new modules. Module is just simply a self-contained capability added to the iOS. And so once you build something for yourself, new items will get dropped into here. We have the CLAUDE.md file set up now, but how do we know it works? We didn't do all this setup for nothing, right? We know what Claude should know based on what you gave it, but you can't confirm it yet. And that's what a lot of people actually do with AI. They just trust it to work, but don't actually test the first few outputs to confirm it. Even when testing something like this is actually very simple. Now that the AI actually knows about your business, we can actually flip the script and interview the AI on what it knows. And so AI doesn't always get everything right, especially on the first run of something. And if you don't confirm it's actually gotten that something right, you're going to run the risk of having to rework it later down the line when it's gone and added a whole bunch of files, a whole bunch of new strategy documents, and everything's just wrong because you didn't check it. But it's actually very easy to test, so why not test it? And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to flip the script on Claude and interview it about what we told it. We're basically going to give it a test. Everything you talked about in that interview and all the items that you uploaded, we're going to ask about. And you won't have to forget everything here because you can read through it in your workspace because it's right there. And so I've loaded up a new Claude code session with the little Claude button up here, just so we have a clean slate. And we can look into our context folder at our business info, our current data, our personal info, and our strategy. And we can start asking questions. I'm going to drag this over to the left so I can have it up one side by side. And simply, we're going to ask, tell me about my business info. What does my business do? Who does it serve? How do we get clients? What do the clients get? And how does it make money? Now, I'm doing this very broadly. I encourage you to be a little more in-depth than I am. Ask maybe 1 or 2 questions per prompt, but the idea is the same. Just ask it questions, hit enter. We'll wait for it to respond, and then we're going to cross-check based on the answers. And so with a simple ask, it comes back pretty quick. We can start reading through its answers and see what it gave us. And so what your business does: System Success Pro sells AIOS for service businesses, fully managed, no, not a tool handoff. I build each one, teach them how to use it, and run the plumbing so they never touch it. So AIOS is a 5-layer framework, learns how the business runs, takes over follow-up, onboarding, communications, and whatever else. Who it serves: founders who become the bottleneck. The ideal avatar is Mark, a service-based business with a small team, 5 to 10, 1 mil plus revenue, so on and so forth. You get the point. Basically, you want to make sure all of the information that it's giving back to you is correct, and you can cross-check it with all the different files that you created and uploaded. And so a good example of this here, it's not making up these numbers because earlier I did say to tell it, or I did tell it the 997 numbers, so it's directly referencing it. And so ideally, you just need to ask it a whole bunch of questions, keep going until you're satisfied, and don't ask questions with a very specific answer that it can find in one line. So like, don't ask, do I use a Telegram interface? Because that's a yes. You can ask something like, for what the clients get, how do they operate on a day-to-day basis? What do they touch? What do they don't touch? That kind of stuff. Be generalized so Claude can give you the specific answer from a vague question. Because if it's giving you that answer from a vague question, it definitely knows its stuff, and you can cross-check that it actually does by reading the 2 differences. And if you want to turn what you just watched into a real system for your business, I do a free AI business audit, no commitment, link is below. We go over all the different areas of your business and find out which tasks to start automating first. And you can actually go back through this video and see some of the actual service I offer. And a quick thing before we wrap up: the 3 prompts I used today, the interview, the upload, and the assembly. I'm putting all 3 in the description in a Google Doc for you so you can copy and paste them into your own empty folder. And so you can be doing the exact same thing I just did. And this is part 1 of building your AI OS, so stay tuned for part 2 of setting up your KPI and communication pulling and creating the data OS layer of the AI OS. Context is layer 1 of 5, so hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.